Today we stand at a crossroads, facing challenges that test not only our nations but the very fabric of humanity. The decisions we make in this moment will echo through generations. It is not enough to seek power or prestige. We must seek responsibility and courage. Our world is interconnected like never before, and the problems we face, conflict, inequality, climate change, and injustice, do not respect borders or ideologies. It is our shared duty to rise above division and to embrace the common good with unwavering determination. We must reject the politics of fear and division that breed mistrust and violence. Instead, let us choose dialogue, cooperation, and understanding. It is through empathy and respect that peace will flourish and prosperity will be shared. The youth of today look to us with hope and urgency. They demand action, not empty promises. They demand a planet protected, societies that are just, and leaders who are bold enough to shape a better future. Let us commit to courageous leadership. Leaders who prioritize peace over conflict, justice over corruption, and unity over discord. Our legacy must be one of healing and progress, not destruction and despair. This moment calls for more than words. It calls for decisive action fueled by vision and integrity. Together, we can build a world where dignity, opportunity, and peace are not privileges for the few, but rights for all. The future is in our hands. Let us rise to the occasion and lead with strength, wisdom, and compassion. The world watches us, and history will judge us by what we choose to do today. Shared responsibility is no longer a choice, it is a necessity. In an increasingly interconnected world, the challenges we face as nations are no longer isolated or distant. They ripple across continents, impact economies beyond borders, and threaten the lives and futures of people we may never meet. Whether it is the climate crisis, rising global inequality, pandemics, violent conflict, or mass displacement, no country can claim immunity, and no nation can claim to have all the answers. What happens in one corner of the world often finds its way to another. Therefore, the only meaningful path forward is one built on collective action, mutual respect, and shared responsibility. For too long, global cooperation has been hindered by narrow national interests, political rivalry, and historical grudges. But the scale of today's crises demands that we set aside these divisions. A drought in one region can lead to food insecurity elsewhere. A war in one country can send millions fleeing across multiple borders. Pollution from one industrial hub contributes to environmental degradation around the globe. Diseases that emerge in one city can travel and spread within days across the world. These are not hypothetical situations, they are our reality. And this reality requires leaders to act not just as representatives of their nations, but as stewards of humanity. Shared responsibility means recognizing that the well-being of one population is tied to the well-being of another. It means accepting that power comes with accountability, not only to one's own people, but to the broader global community. It calls for leaders to transcend partisanship and ego, and to embrace the moral and ethical weight of their decisions. This responsibility cannot be performed through symbolic gestures or carefully worded statements alone. It must be rooted in policy, in action, and in the courage to do what is right, even when it is not politically convenient. To fulfill this responsibility, wealthy nations must stop viewing global aid and development as charity and begin treating them as investments in global stability. When poverty is reduced, when education is accessible, and when healthcare systems are strengthened, the benefits are not limited to the country in question, they are felt everywhere. Likewise, developing nations must have a seat at the table when global strategies are formed. They must be treated not as passive recipients of aid, but as equal partners in designing solutions that affect us all. Equity and inclusion must define the way we cooperate. We must also understand that shared responsibility involves standing up for principles when they are under threat, no matter who the perpetrator is. Human rights are not negotiable based on convenience or political alliances. When they are violated anywhere in the world, it is not only the victims who suffer, it is the credibility of the international community that is diminished. Silence in the face of oppression or injustice is complicity. Leaders must be brave enough to speak up and act, not just for their own people, but for the voiceless and vulnerable everywhere. Our economies are interdependent, and so are our futures. A sustainable world can only be achieved if climate change is treated as a collective crisis, not a matter of domestic policy. A peaceful world can only exist if we build security through cooperation and not arms races. A just world can only emerge if we root out corruption, uphold the rule of law, and ensure fairness in global systems. This shared responsibility also belongs to institutions, international bodies, financial systems, and corporations that hold enormous influence over the lives of billions. They must operate with transparency, fairness, and a deep awareness of the trust placed in them. And when they fail to meet that standard, they must be held accountable. The time for slogans and symbolic diplomacy has passed. What the world needs now is tangible cooperation and a deep commitment to shared values. No one country, no matter how powerful, can face these challenges alone. Our survival, our prosperity, and our peace depend on each other. This is the truth that must guide our politics, our economics, and our collective conscience. The call to shared responsibility is not idealistic, it is the only realistic way forward. It is time for the world's leaders to answer that call with unity, with clarity, and with purpose. The future of our planet and our people depends on it. Rejecting division is one of the most urgent and critical responsibilities facing world leaders today. The politics of fear, mistrust, and exclusion have taken deep root in many corners of the globe, threatening not only the stability of individual nations, but also the fragile web of international cooperation that holds the world together. These politics thrive on exploiting differences of race, religion, nationality, ideology, and they drive wedges between people who could otherwise be united by shared goals and common humanity. In a time when unity is more necessary than ever, we must choose to dismantle the structures of division and replace them with sincere dialogue and enduring cooperation. Division weakens societies from within, it undermines institutions, erodes trust, and replaces hope with cynicism. When leaders appeal to fear rather than reason, they may gain short-term support, but they leave behind long-term damage. Mistrust grows, communities turn against each other, and constructive discourse becomes nearly impossible. The result is polarization, where compromise is seen as betrayal and dialogue as weakness. This kind of atmosphere not only hinders progress, but makes societies more vulnerable to instability, extremism, and authoritarianism. No society is immune to this risk, regardless of its history or strength. Around the world, we see how these politics have divided neighbors, split families, and ignited violence. From racial tensions to religious persecution, from rising nationalism to xenophobic rhetoric, the signs are clear. When fear dominates our political and social spaces, division becomes inevitable. Yet history has shown us time and again that such division does not lead to peace or prosperity. It leads to conflict, repression, and the breakdown of the social fabric. Rejecting this dangerous path requires leadership grounded in integrity and courage. It means choosing to speak to the better instincts of people, not their fears. It means engaging with opponents respectfully, listening to differing perspectives, and building consensus even when it is difficult. This is not a call for weakness or surrender. It is a call for wisdom and maturity. It takes strength to seek dialogue with those who disagree. It takes vision to see unity where others see difference. Dialogue is more than just conversation. It is a commitment to understanding. It requires listening with an open mind and speaking with honesty. True dialogue does not seek to dominate, but to connect. In this spirit, leaders must create spaces where people from all walks of life can come together, share their experiences, and find common ground. They must build institutions that reflect inclusion, protect minority voices, and guard against the manipulation of public sentiment. Cooperation is the natural extension of this dialogue. Where division seeks to isolate and fragment, cooperation builds bridges and partnerships. No nation can face global problems alone, whether it be climate change, terrorism, migration, or economic inequality. These issues cross borders and demand coordinated responses. The more we allow division to dictate our politics, the weaker our collective ability to respond becomes. International cooperation must not be reduced to strategic alliances or economic agreements alone, must be rooted in a genuine commitment to shared values and mutual respect. Countries must be willing to stand together, even when it is not easy, when it requires sacrifice, compromise, or the courage to challenge allies. This is how trust is built, and trust is the foundation of any lasting peace. We must also recognize that rejecting division begins at home. It is not enough to advocate for global unity while ignoring injustices within our own borders. Leaders must foster inclusion within their societies, ensuring that all citizens, regardless of background, feel seen, heard, and valued. Education, media, and political discourse must be used as tools to bring people together rather than drive them apart. The work of unity is not quick or easy. It demands patience, humility, and resilience. But it is also the only path that offers a sustainable and just future. As leaders, the choices made today will determine whether the world moves further into darkness and fragmentation or steps into a new era of cooperation and understanding. Let us then commit to rejecting the easy temptation of division and instead embrace the harder, nobler work of building unity. Let us replace suspicion with empathy, anger with dialogue, and isolation with partnership. The world cannot afford to be divided any longer. The future of our people, our planet, and our peace depends on our ability to come together, speak openly, and act in solidarity. Only by overcoming division can we truly shape a better tomorrow. Across every corner of the world, young people are rising with a clarity of purpose and urgency that can no longer be ignored. They are demanding real action, not words, not slogans, not carefully crafted promises that lead nowhere. Their call is clear. Justice, peace, and climate action are not negotiable. They are necessities. They are not future goals. They are present crises that require immediate and bold responses. This generation, more connected, informed, and engaged than any before, is no longer asking politely for change. They are demanding it with conviction, and rightfully so. The urgency young people feel is not born out of idealism alone. It is grounded in the reality they are inheriting. They see a planet pushed to its environmental limits, with rising temperatures, disappearing ecosystems, and entire communities threatened by floods, droughts, and fires. They understand that the consequences of inaction will fall squarely on their shoulders. They will live with the economic instability, the migration crises, and the social upheaval that climate change will intensify if world leaders continue to delay real solutions. But climate is only one part of the crisis. Young people are also deeply aware of the injustice that persists across societies. They see wealth concentrated in the hands of a few, while billions remain in poverty. They watch as racism, sexism, and other forms of discrimination continue to deny people their dignity and rights. They experience the failures of systems that prioritize profit over people, and they are calling out the hypocrisy of leaders who speak of equality while enabling structures that perpetuate inequality. Peace, too, is not just a concept to them, it is a desperate need. In many parts of the world, youth live amid conflict, under the threat of violence, or within broken political systems where corruption and authoritarianism stifle hope. They are often the first to suffer in wars they did not start and in systems they did not build. And yet, they are also often excluded from the rooms where decisions are made. The voices most affected by today's crises are the ones least heard in parliaments, peace talks, and global summits. This generation is not waiting for permission to speak. They are organizing, protesting, innovating, and building movements. They are on the streets, in classrooms, online, and in communities, mobilizing with courage and persistence. They are not bound by old ideologies or restrained by past failures. Instead, they bring a fresh and fearless energy that challenges power and demands accountability. Their language is one of action, urgency, and truth. They are not impressed by titles or wealth. They are inspired by integrity and impact. Yet far too often, their demands are met with condescension or delay. Leaders issue statements, hold press conferences, and make lofty declarations that never translate into real change. Promises are recycled, plans are postponed, and the same systems continue to fail. This must end. It is time for leaders to stop performing concern and start delivering results. Youth are not calling for perfection, they are calling for honesty, effort, and courage. Investing in youth is not a favor, it is a necessity. They are not just future leaders, they are leaders now. Policies must reflect their priorities. Education systems must equip them not only with skills, but with the capacity to think critically and act ethically. Economies must create opportunities that do not exploit, but empower. Political systems must open the door for their participation, not symbolically, but meaningfully. They must be consulted, included, and respected. Listening to youth is not enough. Action must follow. Real commitments must be made and kept. Climate policies must move beyond targets and timelines into real emission cuts and systemic change. Justice must mean reforming institutions that protect privilege and ignore suffering. Peace must mean investing in diplomacy, reconciliation, and community resilience rather than weapons and war. The frustration of young people is not a threat. It is a signal. It is a wake-up call for the world to do better. If leaders fail to listen and act now, they will not just lose the trust of a generation, they will lose the future altogether. The energy, ideas, and urgency of youth are not burdens, they are gifts. And if properly embraced, they can help lead humanity out of the crises it faces. The world has run out of time for complacency. The voices of the youth are not whispers, they are a roar. They are not asking to inherit a broken world, they are demanding to rebuild it now. Their urgency is a force that can no longer be delayed, dismissed, or denied. It must be met with equal urgency from those in power. The time to act is not tomorrow, it is today. In a world gripped by uncertainty, division, and escalating crises, the need for courageous leadership has never been greater. It is no longer sufficient for leaders to simply manage the status quo or offer polished speeches in times of turmoil. The moment demands bold, ethical, and visionary leadership that is willing to stand on the side of peace, justice, and unity, even when it is difficult, unpopular, or risky. The true measure of leadership is not in the titles one holds or the applause one receives, but in the moral choices made when the world is watching, and especially when it is not. Courageous leadership is not about dominance or power. It is about choosing to do what is right, not just what is easy or politically convenient. It is about facing uncomfortable truths head-on and refusing to be silent in the face of injustice. True leaders understand that peace must be built, not enforced. They understand that justice must be pursued relentlessly, not compromised for short-term gain. And they understand that unity is not found in uniformity, but in mutual respect and a shared commitment to the common good. Too often we see leaders driven by fear, greed, or self-preservation. Corruption festers when accountability is ignored, and conflict is fueled when power is prioritized over people. In such an environment, distrust spreads rapidly. Institutions lose their legitimacy, and citizens lose their faith in governance. The result is polarization, cynicism, and the slow erosion of democratic values. Leadership that fails to stand for justice and peace is not leadership at all. It is complicity in the decay of society. The courage to lead means standing against corruption, even when it exists within one's own government or party. It means confronting inequality, even when doing so threatens elite interests. It means listening to the voices of the marginalized, the excluded, and the oppressed, not just during election seasons, but every day. Courageous leadership demands transparency, integrity, and a willingness to be held accountable. It is not weakened by criticism, it is strengthened by truth. Choosing peace over conflict is one of the most powerful decisions a leader can make. War may seem like strength, but peace requires far more bravery. It requires the patience to negotiate, the empathy to understand an opponent, and the wisdom to see the long-term costs of violence. Leaders who champion peace invest in dialogue, diplomacy, and disarmament. They support education over militarization and reconciliation over revenge. Peace is not a passive state. It is an active, ongoing process that requires leadership grounded in vision and discipline. Justice is equally vital. Without justice, there can be no lasting peace. Justice means fairness in the legal system, equal access to opportunity, and protection of human rights. It means dismantling structures that uphold discrimination and poverty. Leaders who pursue justice are not afraid to challenge unjust systems, even if those systems benefit them. They use their power not to enrich themselves, but to uplift others. They ensure that laws serve the people, not the powerful. Justice is not an abstract ideal. It is a concrete promise that must be honored through action. And then there is unity. Not the kind forced through fear or conformity, but the unity that grows from inclusion, respect, and shared purpose. In a time of deep division, political, ethnic, religious, and ideological, leaders must be the bridge builders. They must create space for diverse voices and recognize that difference is not a threat but a strength. Unity requires leaders who can rise above personal ego and partisan interest, who can bring people together through empathy and dialogue rather than scapegoating and blame. Courageous leadership also means preparing the next generation to lead. It means mentoring, educating, and empowering young people to carry forward the values of peace, justice, and unity. It means building institutions that will outlast any one leader, grounded in the principles of democracy, accountability, and human dignity. The world is watching. In every region, citizens are demanding more from those in power. They are tired of empty promises and performative gestures. They are looking for leadership that is genuine, principled, and transformative. They are searching for those who will lead with courage, not cowardice, who will take responsibility for change rather than shift blame for failure. This is not a time for passive leadership. It is a time for bold choices and unwavering moral clarity. Leaders must have the courage to confront conflict with peace, to face injustice with justice, and to reject discord in favor of unity. The path forward will not be easy. It never is, but it is the only path worth taking. The world does not need more powerful leaders. It needs more courageous ones. Those who lead not from above, but alongside the people they serve, guided by truth, compassion, and a deep commitment to the greater good. The measure of a generation is not found in its wealth, its technology, or its power, but in the legacy it leaves behind. Every era is judged not only by the challenges it faced, but by how it responded to them, by whether its leaders chose selfishness or solidarity, short-term gain or long-term vision, silence or courage. The decisions we make today, as individuals and as nations, will shape the world inherited by those who come after us. And so we must ask ourselves, with honesty and urgency, what kind of legacy are we building? Will it be one defined by conflict and collapse, or by healing, dignity, and opportunity for all? We live in a time of extraordinary pressure and possibility. The world faces an overlapping crisis of climate, conflict, economic inequality, and political division. These are not isolated problems, they are interconnected, and they demand a unified, forward-looking response. It is easy in such times to be overwhelmed or to become cynical, but despair is not a strategy, and apathy is not a legacy. We must act with the conviction that our efforts today can and must lead to lasting progress. To build a legacy of healing means confronting the wounds that history has left behind and the harm still being inflicted today. Healing requires truth, justice, and reconciliation. It means acknowledging the traumas of colonization, slavery, war, and systemic discrimination. It means ensuring that those who have been marginalized are not only heard, but empowered. Healing is not forgetting the past, it is learning from it, facing it, and making amends so that history does not repeat itself. Healing also applies to our relationship with the earth. The environmental degradation we have caused cannot be reversed with good intentions alone. It requires urgent, sustained action. Our natural world is crying out, from melting glaciers to burning forests to polluted oceans. If we continue to exploit the planet without accountability, we will leave behind a future of scarcity and suffering. A legacy of healing demands that we become better stewards of the environment, protecting biodiversity, transitioning to clean energy, and embracing sustainability as a guiding principle, not a secondary concern. Equally vital is the pursuit of dignity for all people. Dignity is not a luxury or an ideal, it is a human right. Yet too many people in our world are denied it through poverty, violence, displacement, discrimination, and the daily indignities of inequality. A child growing up in hunger cannot reach their potential. A person persecuted for their identity cannot live freely. A community abandoned by its government cannot thrive. If our actions today do not uplift human dignity, they do not deserve to be remembered as progress. Dignity must be the foundation of how we govern, how we educate, and how we treat one another. It must be reflected in the policies we enact, the justice we uphold, and the compassion we extend to the vulnerable. Leaders have a responsibility to center dignity in every decision, to ask not what is politically safe, but what is morally right. Opportunity, the third pillar of a lasting legacy, means building a world in which everyone has the chance to succeed. It means breaking down the barriers that trap people in cycles of poverty, exclusion, or fear. Opportunity is about more than access to jobs. It's about access to quality education, to healthcare, to housing, to justice. It's about nurturing the talents of every individual, regardless of where they were born, the color of their skin, their gender, or their beliefs. Opportunity also requires that we prepare people, especially the youth, for a changing world. We must invest in future-oriented education, support innovation, and create systems that reward collaboration and ethics, not just competition and profit. We must build economies that serve the people rather than exploit them, and we must ensure that the progress we make is inclusive, not reserved for the few at the top. A legacy of progress is not something that happens by chance. It is built through vision, courage, and unwavering commitment. It is made by those who choose to do what is right, not what is easy. It is made by those who understand that the power they hold today exists for the service of tomorrow. It is made by people who see beyond their own lifetime and act with future generations in mind. What we build today must endure. Let it be a world where peace is more than the absence of war, where justice is more than a slogan, and where opportunity is more than a privilege. Let our legacy be one that future generations speak of with pride, knowing that in our time, we chose to rise, to care, and to build a future defined not by fear, but by hope. There are moments in history when hesitation becomes a threat, when delay deepens crisis, and when the absence of clear, bold leadership magnifies the suffering of millions. We are living in one of those moments now. Across the world, we face unprecedented challenges that cannot be solved with indecision, empty rhetoric, or piecemeal solutions. Climate catastrophe, social injustice, economic instability, technological disruption, and geopolitical conflict are converging in ways that demand one thing above all else: decisive action. Not tomorrow, not in the next term, but now. Bold decisions, rooted in vision, integrity, and compassion, are the only path forward if we are serious about shaping a better world. Decisive action begins with vision. A clear and courageous understanding of the world as it is and the world as it could be. It requires leaders to look beyond short-term pressures and think about the long-term well-being of people and the planet. Vision is not fantasy. It is the ability to imagine a better future and the determination to make it real. It means daring to pursue transformative goals, like eradicating extreme poverty, achieving net flow emissions, ensuring universal education, and building societies where human dignity is not an exception, but a guarantee. But vision alone is not enough. Without integrity, it collapses into false promises and failed policies. Integrity is what holds leadership accountable to its words. It is the moral compass that ensures decisions are made not for personal gain, political survival, or corporate interests, but for the collective good. In a time when public trust in institutions is rapidly eroding, integrity is not a luxury, it is essential. People will no longer tolerate leaders who speak of justice while practicing corruption, who claim to fight for peace while fueling division, or who pretend to act on climate while approving projects that destroy the environment. Integrity also means acknowledging past failures, owning mistakes, and correcting course when necessary. It means telling people the truth even when it is hard. Decisive leaders do not avoid responsibility, they embrace it. They understand that every delay in addressing injustice, every compromise made at the expense of the vulnerable, carries a cost measured in lives, livelihoods, and lost potential. This is why true leadership cannot be passive. It must be active, consistent, and courageous. Yet no action is truly just unless it is grounded in compassion. The most powerful decisions are those that recognize the humanity of others, especially those who have been silenced, displaced, or left behind. Compassion reminds us that statistics are not just numbers, but real people. Children without clean water, families without homes, refugees without safe passage, workers without protection. Compassion ensures that our progress is not cold or technocratic, but inclusive, responsive, and rooted in empathy. Decisive action built on compassion means protecting the rights of the marginalized. It means dismantling systems that perpetuate inequality and exclusion. It means reforming institutions that have long served the few at the expense of the many. In education, it means investing not only in infrastructure, but in access, relevance, and equity. In health, it means ensuring that every person, regardless of income or geography, has the right to care. In climate, it means prioritizing the needs of those most affected, indigenous communities, small island nations, and the youth who will inherit the consequences of our inaction. In this era, indecision is a luxury the world can no longer afford. The cost of inaction is visible everywhere, in rising seas and burning forests, in collapsing democracies and deepening inequalities, in wars that could have been prevented and lives that could have been saved. Every day that passes without meaningful change is a missed opportunity and a deepening failure of leadership. Decisive action also means reforming global systems that have failed to deliver justice. International institutions must reflect the world as it is today, not as it was decades ago. Trade, aid, and security frameworks must be redesigned to be fair, transparent, and inclusive. Countries must be willing to collaborate across borders, not retreat into nationalism and isolationism. The challenges we face do not stop at borders, and neither can our solutions. The future will not be shaped by intentions. It will be shaped by actions. The kind of world we leave behind will depend on the decisions we are willing to make today. Will we act boldly, guided by a clear vision, moral integrity, and genuine compassion? Or will we falter, restrained by fear, self-interest, and the illusion of safety in the status quo? History will not remember those who waited for the perfect moment. It will remember those who seized the moment they were given and rose to meet it with courage. The world is watching, and the next generation is counting on us. This is the time to lead, not with hesitation, but with bold, decisive action that will define a legacy of change.